Good morning, guys. How you doing? Today we are going to take a look at Chapter 5, which is evaluating expressions. So first off, I want to just point out that you can see that the number 3 with a is called a coefficient. A is a variable. So when I use the word coefficient and variable, you'll know what I'm referring to. If you take a look at question number 1, they're asking you to plug in the value 2 with the variable. That is the unknown value of that number. When you are plugging in that number, please note this means multiplication. Okay, so 3a is 3 times 2 because the unknown value of a is 2. So what we have is basically 3 times 2 plus 1, and 6 plus 1 is 7. Question number 2 is referring to, sorry, not 3, but they're referring to b as the value of 8. So what we're going to do is we are going to divide 8 by 24. If you take a look at the expression, we have 24 divided by 8. And as you probably saw, I had already solved that problem. 24 over 8 is equal to 3. Questions numbers 3, 4, what you want to do is you want to kind of think about what is going on with this pattern. So what I would recommend doing is kind of taking a look at the set of numbers, and then once you realize the pattern, see how that applies, and what they're going to ask you then to do is to write the next 3 terms. So looking at these numbers, you can see that the numbers are increasing by 5. And then all you really do is you just keep on skip counting by 5s 3 times. So 19 plus 5 is 24, plus another 5 is 29, plus another 5 is 34. So as you can see, the answers here are 24, 29, and 34. I had already solved this test, as you can see, some of the answers are already here, but just wanted to talk out what's going on here. Question 4, the same. You can see this as adding by 14 or skip counting by 14, the multiples of 14. So 14 times 1 is 14, 14 times 2 is 28. The pattern is basically multiples of 14, so times 3, and then times 4, and then times 5. And what are we multiplying by? 3, 4, and 5. We're multiplying, once again, 14 by 4, 5, and 6. So the 3 next numbers would be 56, 70, and 84. 6 times 14 is 84. Question number 5, what you're seeing is a pattern, an X and Y relationship. Let's say X is the number of fish. Y is basically going to be X times 280, $2.80. So basically, whatever number you choose, the number of fish, will be multiplied by $2.80, which will equal Y. Well, in that case, if 6 goldfish is the X, or 6 times 280, what you end up getting, I believe, is 1680. Why? Well, as you can see, 6 times the 2 is 12, so that's $12. And then 6 times 80 cents is $4.80. And when you add this up, 12 and 4.8, it will equal the 16.8, which is $16.80. What I would really like to do is just focus on one property, the distributive property. Yes, you know there's the associative property, the cumulative property, but what I really think will be something that is prominent throughout the entire test will be the distributive property. Think distributive, think parentheses, and then when you think of parentheses, think of multiplication. So what we have here is an expression, and they want you to solve that expression, rewrite that expression. What we do is anything outside the parentheses we multiply by what's inside. So 4x, and then don't forget this is a positive 7. If it was a negative 7, you would have a different answer. In this case, it is 4x plus 28, a positive 28. So you can see I drew arrows to kind of show you that 4 times the x, 4 times the 7, and 4x equals 28. Now if this was a negative 7, it would be 4x minus 28. So as you can see, I've done the answer for you. In this case, you have a negative 5, so this negative 5 is being multiplied by y. That is a negative 5y. And this is a negative 5 times a positive 10. When you have a negative number times a positive number, it makes it a negative product. And there we go, negative 5 minus 50. Simplest form, think of like terms. So what you're doing is you're combining. I'm going to use some different colors today to just show like terms. So you have the x's, 3x plus 5x. Please remember that you can only add the coefficients together if they have the same variable. So x's are like terms. So we have a 3x and a 5x. That's a positive 5x and a positive 3x. So that is 8x. I'm going to use another color to show different terms. And this is a negative 1 and a positive 7. If you have a positive 7 and you take away 1, you're left with a positive 6. Okay. X in x means or equals 2x. And then if you have a positive 1 and a positive 1, you should have positive 2. So very self-explanatory. We're combining the x's and then we're combining the integers. Okay. Next, we are going to do another problem. 4x. Don't forget, this is the distributive property. So many of us may say, oh, that's a 2x, but it's actually not. It's a negative 2x. So 4x and taking away 2x is going to give you 2x. And then we're going to use a different color. We have a negative 7. Here's this negative times a negative 2. So that's actually a positive 2 now. And a positive 2 and a negative 7 is negative 5. So this is how we ended up getting 2x minus 5. Greatest common factor. When I think of greatest common factor, I think about a number that will go into larger numbers. I also think about multiples. If your multiplication facts are really dialed, you'll have no problem thinking about numbers that will go into both sets of monomials. That's kind of a weird word, but just think of a number that will go into two larger numbers. Okay, so usually what they'll do is they'll give you one of those numbers, not all the time, but as you can see, 3 does go into 12, and then x, they both share the same variable. So in this case, 3x is basically the greatest common factor. If we look at 16 and 20, 16 won't go into 20. So now we have to kind of think about multiples that both 16 and 20 share. So obviously 1 goes into 16, 2 goes into 16, 2 goes into 20 as well. We think about 4. 4 will go into 16, 4 will go into 20. I'm going to keep on going. I want to find the greatest common factor. So another factor of 16 is 8, but 8 doesn't go into 20. And so as you can see, I could keep moving up. 16 will go into 20, therefore 4 is basically the greatest number that'll go into 16 and 20. And they both share a variable of a, so 4a is the common factor. And if I were to factor 16a and 28b, and I were to rewrite that expression, you may see this. 4 times 4 is 16, and then the a times the 4 is going to equal, once again, 4a times 4 will equal the 16a. And then I would add 5 plus b. And this, if we were to use the distributive property, 4a times 4 would be 16a, and the 4a times the 5b would be the 28b. But we don't have to do that. Basically, they're just asking for the common factor. As you can see, 5 will go into 25 5 times, 5 will go into 10 2 times, and then they both share a variable of d. So that was, once again, another 10-minute little mini lesson. Hopefully these 10 problems, actually 15 problems, will help you to continue to do the chapter quiz. do your best. As you can see, there are some patterns here which we introduced about a few minutes ago. The different properties. I think distributive property will be the most important, only because you see it so prominently throughout the entire year's curriculum. And then just plug in the variables into these expressions and then solve them out, and you should have no problem with Chapter 5. Have a good day, guys.